Hey guys, today I am going to be reacting to the casting for the upcoming HBO TV adaptation of Harry Potter. So that is exactly what this video is going to be. It is going to be me reacting to all of the current casting choices that have been announced for the upcoming HBO adaptation of Harry Potter. And I also wanted to do something fun at the very end of this video. So yes, stick around all the way through this video, because the front half of the video, I am going to be reacting to all of the current casting choices. And then in the last half of the video, I'm going to do a fun fantasy casting. You know, characters that aren't going to be popping up here until maybe like season 2 or 3 or 4 or later or whatever. I wanted to do some fun fantasy casting for some actors and actresses that I think would work wonderfully in this spin-off or adaptation of Harry Potter. But yeah, let's get going with my reactions for this upcoming HBO series. I think all of us have a lot of thoughts and feelings. There's a lot of controversial casting choices. We're going to talk about it. We're going to hash it out. Let's just start here. Do we need an adaptation of Harry Potter to begin with? There has been just so much controversy with that alone, that we're getting another adaptation, another reboot of Harry Potter, when the movies are not really that old at this point. I think a lot of us were kind of, if HBO wanted to do something within the world of Harry Potter, I think a lot of us were hoping for just something else more original. Because I know for years a lot of us have been wanting some sort of spin-off about the Marauders, or something about the founders of Hogwarts. There's so many kind of, I think, options there that could be explored. So yeah, why readapt and reboot the movies that were already very beloved and very popular? Either way, you know, even though I love those movies, the movies still left out a lot from those books. Like, a lot. Because I remember sometimes watching a movie, like me and my sister would know exactly what was going on, but then like my mom or dad would have a question about something, and me and my sister would have to try to kind of fill in some of those gaps that the movies were leaving out. So yeah, HBO, what HBO has been promising so far with this series is that these are going to be book accurate, and they're going to try to put as much in there as they can, you know, to maybe be a bit more satisfying than what the movies gave. So we shall see. You know, we can't really judge exactly just yet what's going to happen until the show actually premieres. And even though there's a part of me, I'm a bit hesitant. You know, there's a part of me that I am a little bit nervous about this show, because I do like the movies so much. I really enjoy the books. Yeah, is the show going to work? You know, is it going to work, or is it going to fail miserably? Again, we can't judge anything until something actually comes out, you know, until we actually get like a physical trailer, and then once we actually start watching episode 1. So let's get into the casting that has happened so far with this show. And I feel like I am seriously in the minority with a lot of this casting, because I feel like I have heard nothing. I feel like I have heard nothing but negativity towards this cast. You know, like there's some people that people are really on board with, and then like just a vast majority of actors that people are not on board with. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because I watch way more British television than the average person. Okay, let's be real. I watch way too much British television. So as all of these casting choices have been announced, I have just been super nerdy and excited for a lot of these people. Let's get into some of the casting. You guys, I feel like I'm sitting here procrastinating. Am I procrastinating? I think I'm procrastinating, kind of getting into it. Because like I said, there's just some very controversial things going on with this casting, and I want to try and remain positive. You know, I want to try to remain positive and optimistic, but at the same time, we got to face the reality of certain situations. So just to start off with the main big three, I'm not going to really sit here and talk about any of the kids. I don't think it's any of my business to sit and talk about any of the young kid actors that had been cast. That's just it. They're kids. I feel kind of strange and awkward talking about them. Yet none of them, to my knowledge, has had any other previous acting experience. I think some of them on their IMDb pages, they have like maybe 1 or 2 credits, but that's kind of it. For the most part, all of these kids are fresh, brand new faces, which I'm glad, I think that's how it should be with all of these the kid characters, if you will. They should be new up-and-comers. HBO released that main that new photo, of the main 3 playing Harry, Ron, and Hermione. They look adorable. They look sweet. They look like Harry, Ron, and Hermione. So yeah, I definitely can't wait to see this trio in action. And yeah, other kids have been cast as well, because we got Draco, Seamus, Pavarti, and Lavender. Lavender especially, I'm really glad we got Lavender cast, because she's such a big important character as you kind of get towards the tail end of the series. So it's like I'm glad they're casting her very early on, so that way she doesn't pop up and it's like, well, who the hell is this girl, So yeah, I'm really happy that Lavender has been cast. And yeah, I've definitely seen it, because Pavarti has been cast, but what about Padma? So we don't know if there's going to be a whole different actress playing Padma, or yeah, that girl who is playing Pavarti, if she's going to actually end up just playing both of them, as we get like to Goblet of Fire and whatnot. But yeah, all of the kids so far, they look fine. They look perfect to me. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and spend a lot of time kind of overanalyzing them, because it's not my business to overanalyze little kids. So the reason we're all here is definitely for all of the adult characters, for sure. So yeah, starting with Dumbledore, you guys, we have John Lithgow playing Dumbledore. John Lithgow is definitely a choice. He is definitely a choice. I definitely really want to give John Lithgow a chance. Yeah, I previously enjoyed him like in recent years and things like The Crown and Perry Mason. And yeah, he played Winston Churchill on The Crown, and he did a very, very good British accent on that. So I have extreme confidence in him pulling off a really good British accent for Dumbledore. I'm definitely willing to give John Lithgow a chance. Again, until we get a trailer, until we get episode 1, I'm not here to sit and judge him at all. I definitely want to give him a shot. I have a co-worker at work, you guys, because me and her were talking about the casting for this show, and she, oh boy, she hates John Lithgow with a passion. She is not happy with the casting choice. She likes him as an actor, but she is not happy with him as Dumbledore. Whereas I'm a little bit more kind of optimistic about it. Moving on, we have Nick Frost playing Hagrid, you guys. This was a casting that really kind of blew me away, because there was a part of me, I was like, how the hell did they get Nick Frost to get on the show? Yeah, Nick Frost, yeah, we all love him from Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. Yeah, in recent years, I have enjoyed him in like Into the Badlands and Why Women Kill. I think he will definitely pull off Hagrid. I think his overall look, his voice, I think we're all going to like Nick Frost's performance for the most part. I'm hoping. Yeah, he can't compete with the great late Robbie Coltrane, but I have a lot of confidence in Nick Frost. And I think he'll be able to pull off kind of both the lovable and comedic side of Hagrid, and like the scary elements of Hagrid too, sometimes when Hagrid could get a little bit more menacing. Moving on, we have Janet McTeer playing Professor McGonagall. I am definitely really pleased about this casting choice for McGonagall. Again, she can't compete with the late great Maggie Smith, but I'm definitely very excited to see what Janet McTeer is going to do. Yeah, I have enjoyed her in things like The Menu, and she was in like a season of Jessica Jones. I loved her in the White Queen miniseries. So yeah, I have a lot of faith and confidence that Janet McTeer, once we see her in action, once she's in the clothes, once we see kind of that fierceness of Professor McGonagall come out, I think we're all going to really love Janet McTeer, hopefully. Okay, let's move to the first big controversy here, or maybe the second, because a lot of people just don't really like John Lithgow. But yeah, let's move into the casting of Professor Snape. You guys, boy oh boy. Papa Isidu is playing Snape. I feel incredibly bad for Papa Isidu. You know, this is just a big, huge, once in a lifetime opportunity for this guy. I'm sure he is excited about this. You know, I'm sure he is thrilled. But I just feel incredibly, I feel a lot for him, because he's having to deal with a lot of stuff that's outside of his control. You know, he is the one who was cast. HBO are the ones who cast him. You know, that was something outside of his control. And I feel like he doesn't deserve all of the hate and negativity that's being thrown his way, because a lot of it is racism. You know, let's be real. A lot of it is straight up racism that's uncalled for. Now, yeah, that being said, yeah, I do feel kind of split and torn about Papa Sidhu's casting, because there's a part of me, he's just completely different from, like, Alan Rickman, obviously. You know, it is an outside of the box casting choice for this character, because he is unfortunately going to be compared to Alan Rickman, because Alan Rickman's performance was so beloved and it's just so incredibly well done. So he has to kind of deal with that already. So I like the outside of the box casting choice. But on the other hand, you know, on the other side of that, as many people have pointed out, because HBO is like, oh, we're going to have accurate casting and accurate this and that, and this is not accurate, obviously. Snape is definitely described as being, you know, a tall, lanky, greasy-haired white guy. And Papa Sidhu is not that. And if anything, Papa Sidhu is super hot. You guys, seriously, this man is super hot. So I am very torn with the casting, because again, I like the outside of the box thinking, you know, but also he's not what I envision as Snape. You know, he's not what a lot of people envision as Snape. So that's kind of going to be just it. Does it matter? You know, does it matter what we think? HBO certainly doesn't care what we think, you know. I want to remain positive for the Snape casting. You know, I want to remain positive and optimistic about it. But I definitely want to give Papa Sidhu a chance. Again, I need a trailer. I need episode 1. I don't want to judge him. I was looking through his IMDb page, and I have surprisingly seen him in quite a number of things. The most recent thing I saw him in was like Black Doves, that had like Keira Knightley in it. I saw him in Black Doves. I saw him in Men. He played George Boleyn in the Anne Boleyn miniseries that came out a couple years ago. And he was also in The Miniaturist. So I've seen Papa Sidhu in quite a number of things, nicely enough. So I am familiar with his work. Moving on, we have Belle Powley, who's going to be playing Petunia Dursley. I was really excited about the casting of Belle Powley. The only other thing I have seen her in, she was in A Small Light, and A Small Light was about like Anne Frank and whatnot, and Belle Powley was playing like one of the women who was trying to help the Frank family during the Holocaust and whatnot. Yeah, I loved Belle Powley in that show, so I'm very excited to see what she does with Petunia Dursley. A lot of people are giving her a lot of crap and a lot of heat, but I think Belle Powley is going to be very surprising. I think she's going to shock all of us with her performance as Petunia. And then playing Vernon Dursley, we have Daniel Rigby. And the only thing that I have recently seen Daniel Rigby in, I just recently watched this show on BritBox called I, Jack Wright, and he was one of the main characters in that show. I really liked his performance in there. He was kind of one of my favorite characters in that show. So I'm definitely very excited to see what he's going to do and pull off as Vernon. Definitely just a much more different look to Vernon for sure. I like that they're going kind of more age appropriate with all these characters. Let's start there. I like that all these characters are being cast more age appropriate, because as much as I love the movies, you know, all those actors were not age appropriate whatsoever. And yes, so far a lot of these people are way more age appropriate. Like how they should realistically be aged. So I can't wait to see what Belle Powley and Daniel Rigby, what they do together as a unit, as the Dursleys. And you know, funny enough, you know, because I was listening to all the kids that got cast, but there's not been any casting for Dudley yet, so that's kind of surprising. Moving on to Lucius Malfoy, you guys. My god, Johnny Flynn. They cast Johnny Flynn as Lucius Malfoy. My god, I was blown away by that one. Okay, now yeah, I love Jason Isaacs. Okay, I freaking love Jason Isaacs as Lucius Malfoy. So I'm really curious what Johnny Flynn is going to do, if I'm going to like his performance as much. I'm kind of curious the look they're going to go for with him, if it's going to be similar to how Jason Isaacs looks, or if they're going to do something kind of completely wildly out there with Johnny Flynn. But yeah, Johnny Flynn, I really enjoyed in that one adaptation of Emma that had Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah, I really liked him in the Les Miserables miniseries that aired a couple years ago, like on PBS. Not the musical, not the Les Mis musical, but like there was like another miniseries that came out after the musical. Yeah, Johnny Flynn was in that for like a couple episodes. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what Johnny Flynn does with Lucius Malfoy, because I think Johnny Flynn would definitely be able to pull off kind of the villainous side, you know. And let's talk about Bertie Carvel. You guys, oh my, Bertie Carvel as Cornelius Fudge. This is just too much for me. Okay, Bertie Carvel as Cornelius Fudge is just way too much for me. My God. Maybe you might not know this about me. You guys, you might not know this about me, but I'm a wee bit obsessed with Bertie Carvel. Okay. I'm a wee bit obsessed with that man. Yeah, the first thing I ever saw Bertie Carvel in, he was in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and he played Jonathan Strange, and boy oh boy, put that man in some Regency pants. My God, I loved him in that. And then he's also currently in a show on Acorn TV called Dalgleish. I love Dalgleish. Yeah, he played Tony Blair in that last season of The Crown, guys. Yeah, I loved him in Dr. Foster. He's also going to be in the upcoming Knight of the Seven Kingdoms spinoff from like Game of Thrones series. He's going to be playing like a Targaryen in that. So yeah, Bertie Carvel is a very busy man. He has a lot of projects coming out. So yeah, he's going to be playing Cornelius Fudge. Why is HBO doing this to me? For the love of God, why is HBO making Cornelius Fudge hot? I can't take this. Okay, I can't take that Cornelius Fudge is going to be overly hot. Seriously, that I love Bertie Carvel. Okay, out of all the casting that has transpired, this is the one that got me. It's too much. I am definitely looking forward to this. Moving on from that, with me just never-endingly gushing about my love of Bertie Carvel. My God, I might be Bertie Carvel's biggest fan. Okay. Moving on, we have Catherine Parkinson. She's going to be playing Molly Weasley, and the only thing I have seen her in recently, she was in The Rivals that aired, I think, sometime last year. And funny enough, she was actually one of my favorite characters on that show. So I'm very curious to see what she's going to do with Molly Weasley. I think she's going to definitely pull it off. From how her character was, especially on The Rivals, I have high hopes for Molly Weasley. Moving on, we have Paul Whitehouse, who is playing Filch, and he has a big IMDb list, but it's like there's things in there I've seen, but he's not standing out to me at all. So yeah, I definitely can't say anything about Paul Whitehouse, you know, how I feel about his casting, just kind of judging from like the photo they released of him. I think I have confidence he can pull it off as Filch, you know. And then playing Professor Quirrell, we have Luke Thallion, and his IMDb, he only has like 3 credits on IMDb, so yeah, playing Professor Quirrell is going to be his kind of big break, you know. And yeah, he's a pretty young guy, seriously. I was pretty shocked with the casting for Quirrell, because he is very, very young, which, when you think about it, Quirrell is supposed to be young, I think. I think a lot of times we forget that, because we think of the casting on you know, that first movie, obviously, and a much older actor playing Quirrell, and yeah, Quirrell I think is supposed to be pretty young. So yeah, they have a very young guy playing Quirrell. I'm really looking forward to how he's going to kind of do that performance, definitely, for sure, because we all know what's happening with that performance. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and reactions, I guess, and me overly gushing about Bertie Carvel. I can't get over that, you guys. For the main cast that has so far been announced, I have a feeling I'm going to upload this video, and there's going to be like another slew of casting announced, and I thought it would be fun to end this video and do some fun fantasy casting for future characters in the franchise. So I'm going to go through this here. This is all characters that, you know, are probably not going to be appearing until like season 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. So I just have some fun fantasy casting choices here, and you guys can argue with me down below if you love or hate these. Let's start with Richard Madden. you guys, because I have seen some fun stuff kind of brewing around the internet. The possibility of Richard Madden being cast as Sirius Black, and I am totally on board that. I would like Richard Madden if he did get cast. I think there's two characters he could possibly play. Either Sirius, because right now he's the popular choice for Sirius, or he can maybe even play Lupin. So I would absolutely love Richard Madden as either Sirius or Lupin. I think that would work perfectly, and yeah, we would have a very hot Lupin or Sirius. Yes, but yeah, speaking of Sirius. Another really huge popular fan casting for Sirius, and this has been going on for like way over a decade at this point. A popular fan casting for Sirius has always been Ben Barnes, you guys. Now, I don't know if Ben Barnes is a little too old at this point. You know, by the time we do get to Sirius Black, I don't know if Ben Barnes is technically a little too old to pull off Sirius, but you know what? Ben Barnes, he still looks like he's in his early 30s. I would love if HBO listened to the popular fan casting and got Ben Barnes as Sirius Black. You guys, have Ben Barnes as Sirius Black and Richard Madden as Professor Lupin. It's a match made in heaven. I am here for that. Now, I was talking about, you know, the casting for Professor Snape earlier, obviously, and that for a lot of us, he just does not look obviously like Professor Snape. Yeah, for me, my personal casting choice that I had for Professor Snape, I had Aniron Barnard. Aniron Barnard, he's pale, he has dark hair, he is still a good-looking guy. You know, I find him personally attractive, but yeah, he's not like overly good-looking. You know, he's not like a ridiculously good-looking guy like Papa Asidu is. So Aniron Barnard was actually my personal favorite pick for Professor Snape, but I would still love Aniron Barnard to be in this show in some fashion, whether that be either Lupin or Sirius, you know. I know I'm giving you guys a big list of potential Lupins and Siriuses, but it's like I have kind of in mind a couple different people. So yeah, Aniron Barnard, if he can be one of the Marauders or just any other character in the show, that would be great. Let's talk about Voldemort really quickly, yeah, guys, because I think Voldemort is the big one. I've heard a lot of rumblings, the possibility of Cillian Murphy playing Voldemort, and though I like the idea of Cillian Murphy, at the same time, is he too much of a big name? You know, can HBO afford him? That's kind of my concern. If HBO has the money to afford Cillian Murphy, because yeah, Cillian Murphy I think would be perfect as Voldemort. But if they are not able to get Cillian Murphy, if Cillian Murphy is just way too busy, if he's too expensive, I do have an alternative casting choice for Voldemort, you guys. I would love to see Frank Delane come back. You might recall Frank Delane in the original Harry Potter movies. He played Tom Riddle as like a 14-year-old, something like that. You know, when we had flashbacks, when Slughorn was like having some flashbacks, and we were getting those flashbacks to young Tom Riddle, Frank Delane played little wee Voldemort, Tom Riddle. I would absolutely love it if they got Frank Delane to come back and now do like Voldemort proper, because now he is much more, I think, age appropriate to do older Voldemort, obviously, and I think Frank Delane could pull it off, hopefully. Next up, let's move to Sam Hazeldine, you guys. If you thought my obsessive love about Bertie Carvel was a lot, I'm getting pretty obsessive about my love for Sam Hazeldine in like the last couple years. I would just love if Sam Hazeldine got on this show in some fashion. I recently watched him in something like The Rings of Power. He was like one of my top favorite characters in the Rings of Power TV show, so I would love to see him pop up here on this HBO show. I don't care who Sam Hazeldine gets cast as. I have a feeling he would get cast as like a Death Eater. You know, he has that look. He has like a look to him that he can just pull off playing a Death Eater, play a villain. But yeah, either have him play like Fenrir Greyback. I think he can pull off Fenrir Greyback really well, or the centaur. What's that centaur's name? Firenze? Is that the centaur's name? Firenze? Like the first centaur that you meet like in the woods when like Harry and Ron and Draco, Hermione, you know, they're all sentenced, you know, out there into the woods, the Forbidden Forest, and they meet Firenze, the centaur. I think the Sam Hazeldine, I could see him pulling off Firenze, either in the prosthetics, because he went through a lot of prosthetics like on Rings of Power, so I think doing prosthetics for Firenze wouldn't be an issue for him. Or if he just provided the voice for Firenze, I don't care. But yeah, either Firenze or Fenrir Greyback. I just want to see Sam Hazeldine as somebody in this show. For the love of God, please. Next up, let's move to Tonks. I have just been debating back and forth, like who would make a perfect Tonks, and I think I stumbled across Emma Appleton. Emma Appleton, kind of one of her most well-known things that she's been in. She was in like the first season of The Witcher for like an episode, but she was like a really popular character from just that first season. Even though, once again, she was only in one episode, but she was really popular in one episode she was in. I think Emma Appleton. I think she's a little too old for Tonks, because Tonks is supposed to be very, very, very young, but at the same time, she herself, Emma Appleton, looks very, very young herself, and I think she could pull off Tonks. I would love her. I mean, good God, if they did end up casting like Richard Madden, you guys, as Lupin, can you see Richard Madden and Emma Appleton together? My God, that's too sexy. Next up, David Tennant, you guys. Now, you may be saying to yourself, okay, David Tennant, he was already in Harry Potter. He was Barty Crouch Jr., but I have a wild one here, you guys. I want David Tennant to come back, and I want him to play Barty Crouch Sr. Okay, I'm brilliant. Okay, I think I personally am brilliant about this casting choice. Okay, I would love to see David Tennant, especially now that he's a bigger star. You know, because back when Goblet of Fire came out and he was playing Barty Crouch Jr., it was such an incredibly small role, and he wasn't really well known at the time, because had Doctor Who even got it started yet? I'm not sure if Doctor Who had got started just yet with him, or if it was about to happen. So nobody knew who the hell he was at the time. So I would love for David Tennant to come back now, since he is a very well-known actor. I would love for him to come back as Barty Crouch Senior. That would be absolutely incredible. I would love it. Moving on to Professor Lockhart, you guys. I spent a long, hard time trying to think about who I wanted for Professor Lockhart, because Lockhart is just such a whimsical, bizarre character in these books. And initially, I was thinking about Charles Edwards. He was like in Downton Abbey and Rings of Power, and I was like, I think Charles Edwards could pull off Lockhart. But then I had an alternative casting for Lockhart, you guys. And once again, my brilliance. I think I'm utterly brilliant for this casting choice for Lockhart. Kyle Soller. Kyle Soller, for all of us who love British TV, a lot of us recognize him from Poldark, or if you're into Star Wars, he has been in both seasons of Andor. Here's the thing with Kyle Soller, which this is part of my genius for this casting. Kyle Soller, when he was in Poldark, like I said, that was really popular over in the UK. When Kyle Soller was in Poldark, I had no idea he was actually American, you guys. It took me a long time. I think when Poldark ended, that's when I got the reveal that Kyle Soller was actually American, because in Poldark he has such a truly convincing British accent. I really thought he was British. And yeah, in Andor, like I said, Andor is like a Star Wars spin-off show. In Andor, he is using his natural American accent. Even though sometimes I feel like his American accent's fake. You know, there's a part of me, because his British accent on Poldark was so good, sometimes I think his natural American accent is fake. So my genius casting choice for Lockhart is Kyle Soller, because as we know, Lockhart is just such a fake and a phony. He's always overhyping himself. He's overhyping his adventures and his books, you know, things that he never actually did, you know. So I think it would be incredibly genius, you know, in the second season, casting Lockhart as Kyle Soller, that Kyle Soller, who can do a very convincing British accent, he uses the accent for the entirety of the show, and then when you get to the big reveal at the end of Chamber of Secrets that he has been faking everything, he's a fake and phony, I think it would be hilarious if he dropped the accent and his true American accent was there. I think that would be absolutely wild to do on Harry Potter, and let Kyle Soller kind of do both, you know, do the British accent and then drop it, and hey, he's actually been American this whole time, you know, even though in the book it's not like that in the book whatsoever. But I think that would add a nice little extra hilarious dimension to his character, that he's been actually American this entire time. Anybody else like that choice? I am upset. I am seriously obsessed with the idea of Kyle Soller playing in Lockhart. I need like someone to start a petition for that like right now. moving on. I don't know if it's because I have just been recently obsessed with watching Ted Lasso, but I would love to see Brett Goldstein play Ludo Bagman when we get around to season 4 with Goblet of Fire. I think Brett Goldstein would pull off Ludo Bagman just perfectly, because Ludo Bagman was a character. You know, he's in Goblet of Fire because because he was like a former Quidditch star, and like I think what is he doing exactly there in Goblet of Fire? Because he is like in charge of like the Quidditch games, right? Something like that. I just really am obsessed with the idea of Brett Goldstein playing Ludo Bagman. Maybe it's some typecasting because he plays, you know, a football star on Ted Lasso. And so now he could be like a former Quidditch star here on Harry Potter. But I really like the idea of Brett Goldstein playing Ludo Bagman, you guys. And yeah, we can sit and see that character now because that character was totally omitted from the movies. And I think he will fit just fine coming back into like season 4 with Goblet of Fire. And then my last casting choice here, yes, there's so many people, but this is kind of all the people I could think of that actors were popping up at the top of my head. I would love to see Katie McGrath as Bellatrix Lestrange. Yeah, guys. I have just been wanting Katie McGrath to be Bellatrix for such an incredibly long time. Yes, I think it's a bit of typecasting because Katie McGrath played Morgana in Merlin. Merlin was like a British TV show that aired quite a number of years ago, and she played Morgana in that, who is a witch. So yeah, it is typecasting for Katie McGrath, but Jesus Christ, Katie McGrath would pull off Bellatrix Lestrange, and she has that very similar look to her, like Helena Bonham Carter, you know, with that long dark hair. I think she can just pull off the crazy side of Bellatrix just perfectly. So yeah, for my fantasy casting for Bellatrix, I would just absolutely go insane if Katie McGrath got that role. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on the Harry Potter HBO casting choices, and yeah, just some fun fantasy casting as well. Yeah, let me know how you guys feel about this upcoming show. Are you excited for it? Are you nervous about it? Are you not excited? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Are you just somewhere in between? Yeah, how do you feel about my fantasy casting choices? Yeah, what actors and actresses would you guys love to see in this show if it does continue on for like 7 years or so? So guys, that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.